Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome back to another Mortal Kombat video. Now, in today's installment of my What the Hell series, I will be talking about a huge fan favorite of the rebooted trilogy, the legendary Gunslinger of Earthrealm, and one of Kotals' many champions, Erron Black. But before we get on to today's video, we do in fact have a sponsor. Freeze. Stop whatever you're doing and take a breath. Don't waste your life. Isn't it time you made some changes? Have you taken down the Demon Lords yet? Crushed the Ice Golems? Ascended the Doom Tower? What about fighting against millions of real players in the arena? Well, now you can, because it's time to raid. Explore millions of champions, combinations, and countless tactics as you take on raid bosses, dungeon runs, campaign battles, and PvP arena matches. With hundreds of artifacts to equip, and over 500 champions blessed with unique skill, you can build your team, develop your champions, and raid your way. What's honestly so crazy about raid is the sheer determination and volume of players now. Since raid's release, the dungeons have been crushed 8,709,774,062 times, meaning that's 350 million a month, 11 million per day, 450,000 per hour, and 103 per second. That's insane. Now, as someone who travels a fair bit, one of my favorite aspects about raid is the ability to play it on the go. Whilst it's known for being available on Android and iOS devices, raid can also be played on your desktop, so you can jump into the action anytime, anywhere. Now, with that said, what's new with raid? Well, this month, raid has a non-stop schedule of summer events and activities planned. We're talking special fusion events, brand new legendary champions, tournaments against other players, and so much more. They've also just released 5 new amazing champions, each of them looking incredible. Raid summer plans are only just heating up, so there's plenty on the horizon coming your way. And as you would imagine, there are some giant updates coming very soon, so there's never really been a better time to get started. If you want to get a huge head start in raid, all you have to do is hit my link down in the description below, or scan my QR code. Once you do, you'll get an epic champion, Chonoro, 260k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. All of this will be available for you here, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link down in the description below and I'll catch you all there. Now, whilst Erron Black is a relatively new character to the series, he's made a pretty big impact on the fanbase. Of course, in terms of design, from what you can see, Erron Black to this day is the one and only true somewhat gunslinger from the West, making him rather different than the other weapon wielding characters in the series. Along with this, unlike those characters in particular that have a bit of a bland personality due to the extensions of their characters being I'm in the special forces, I'm in the police force, Black's design alone exuberates charisma and personality. What many might not know about Erron Black is that the character actually had a troubled creation, going through a number of different drafts, ideas, and concepts before we actually got the product we did in MKX. But before we touch on his creation, let's do a quick rundown of Erron Black's history as a character. Where has he come from, and what is Erron Black all about? Well, one of the interesting aspects about Erron as a character is that he's purposely underdeveloped in many ways. You see, Ed Boon loves the mystique that the character has on him, and by not telling very much upon his debut, or very much of him in MK11, it adds a form of mystique to his character. His mannerisms alone kind of indicate that he's an older individual, something that I will talk about in a bit, and how he's quite weathered in his ways. Now, with that said, where was Erron Black born? Well, whilst Erron is known for working in Outworld, he is actually of Earthrealm descent, more specifically, Wiquette, Texas. We do not strictly know what year Erron Black was born in, but due to the nature of the Wild West, we can pinpoint that it was somewhere in the 19th century, as the Wild West began in the 1850s. Now, from what you can of course tell, this implies that Erron is in fact very very old. This also does tie into his arcade ladder ending in MKX, but we will be touching on that in a bit. Now, not much is actually known about the early years of Erron's life. However, what we do know is that growing up, he was raised in a very troubled household, implied in MK11's intros. It's here where we learn that Erron had a very distasteful relationship with his father, with the two on many occasions coming to blows. It was apparently so bitter that Erron shot his father dead, something that he clearly does not regret. Now, after this point in time, it is believed that Erron learnt of the other realms and had come into contact with the sorcerer Shang Tsung. Now, at this point in Erron's life, he was a full-fledged gunslinger, having a keen eye to gun down anyone in his proximity in simply a blink. Now, because of the nature of his work, as well as the fact that the Wild West is not an era that lasted very long in America, Black became a mercenary for hire, and this is where Shang had approached him. Now again, whilst the details are scarce, a deal was seemingly struck between both sides, where Black would leave Earthrealm for Outworld and gain immortality. Not in the sense that he cannot die, but more so in the sense that he would not age at all. Either that, or it's believed that he ages incredibly slow. We sadly, as of right now, do not know the finer details. So once this deal was struck, Erron would turn his back on his former realm, and as far as we know, permanently reside in Outworld, as historically after this point in time, we never hear of him returning to the realm, unless it's strictly for business. Now, from what you can tell, after this point in time, Erron Black served under the likes of Shao Kahn up until Mortal Kombat X, or at least in between 9 and X. With the fall of the Emperor, Outworld was thrown into disarray, as the realm had fallen into Melina's clutches, an individual that was the furthest thing from sane. She was very malicious in her control, and thus because of this, many that had served Shao turned towards the next contender for Shao Kahn's throne, Kotal. Now, in somewhat former continuity, Erron Black actually made his debut in the Mortal Kombat X comic book series, then his official reveal in Mortal Kombat X, even in fact beating out his own trailer. During this comic book series, Black goes behind Kotal's back in order to kidnap Cassie and Jackie, as he had struck a deal with the Black Dragons to sell the girls. Unfortunately, this plan quickly falls apart when the Red Dragon interferes with the Black Dragon's plans, as he is abandoned by Kano and left to be tortured by the Red Dragons and Movado. Now, Erron does barely survive this attack, but he has clearly broken Kotal's trust, and thus is largely absent during the comic book run. Now, with that said, the interaction between Kano and Erron Black indicate that the two haven't actually worked together before, as the smarmy mercenary remarks that he is far too trusting. Now, by the end of the X comic book series, he does redeem himself by actually going toe-to-toe with a blood god corrupted Raiden. So by the end of the comic book series, he has successfully redeemed himself, and by the start of Mortal Kombat X, he is back by Kotal's side. Now, during the events of X, Outworld and Earthrealm successfully band together in order to take down Melina, something they are successful in, but by the end of it, Kotal does betray the Earthrealmers, as it turns out Melina had Shinnok's amulet, and instead, he decides to claim it for himself. You see, between the events of 9 and X, Earthrealm suffered an attack from Shinnok, which Kotal aided against, but by the end of those events, Shinnok's amulet was left in Earthrealm's care, something that would of course slip between their fingers into Melina's hands. Believing that the safest hands were now his own, Kotal would begin to sever ties with Earthrealm in order to guarantee Outworld's safety. Now, unfortunately, this would all quickly fall apart, as Kotal would be betrayed by one of his other generals, and Shinnok was released once again. Because of this, Kotal, along with Erron and his ally, would attempt to kill the next generation of special forces in the hopes that by doing so, they could buy Outworld more time. But before they could do so, they would be attacked by Sub-Zero and his Linkway forces, and Cassie would be successful in defeating Shinnok. So Outworld's ties to Earthrealm were now permanently severed, as the two sides would not actually cooperate with each other up until Mortal Kombat 11. Now, during the events of 11, things get a little bit hazy and convoluted, as there are in fact two timelines that are now threaded in and out of each other. So there is the modern day Erron Black and the younger Erron Black that we do see in the Colosseum, someone who is far more prominent in the story and does in fact kind of retcon and convolute the comics. You see, this version of Erron Black is seemingly aligned with the Black Dragons, contradicting what we knew about the Mortal Kombat X comics. Now, from Mortal Kombat 11, Erron does serve his role as an antagonist, being an enemy that the player must continuously battle against. So, as you would expect, he is defeated numerous times. But unlike his current self, this younger version of Erron Black seems to be far more cocky and arrogant, not quite as humbled and level-headed. Now, regardless of this, by the end of Mortal Kombat 11, the summoned enemies from the past are defeated, and the timeline is successfully reset, but of the canon being set quite far back, and with Erron Black basically obtaining a soft title of Immortal, we could most certainly see him again, depending on how far back the continuity has of course been reset. Now, as I did point out here, as you can clearly tell, there has been some retcons and changes with Erron Black, with the iteration we saw in 11 and his comic book past. Well, that would be a problem at least up until recently, as whilst the Mortal Kombat X comic book series was designed to be initially canon, it has since been retconned, which in turn has kind of cleared up the timeline for the cowboy. But that's not to say that everything is simple. You see, before his initial debut in Mortal Kombat X, this character went through a number of different drafts, ideas and concepts, of which I will talk about now. Did you know that originally Erron Black wasn't actually called Erron Black? In early development, Erron Black was given the name Salazar, and he was in fact featured in many early forms of promotional material as Salazar. He hadn't been quite dubbed the name Erron Black yet. And we're creeping a little bit further back. Erron Black was originally designed in mind to be a cowgirl. Yeah, Erron Black was a completely different character in early development. Although this character was female on the cutting room floor, it would later be changed in favor of the character in terms of design, attitude, and mannerisms. It simply worked better for Erron as a character. Now, unfortunately, this iteration of Erron Black was not given a name, so we will sadly never know what ideas they had in mind when this character was in very early development. Along with this, when early images of Salazar actually came out, there was many that believed that Salazar was in fact Sonya Blade's father, or an ancestor of the Blade bloodline, as of course during Mortal Kombat X. An important aspect of that game was of course legacy. There were many characters put into the game designed to live up to their predecessors' expectations. Now, whilst Erron Black has only appeared in 2 games, and has sadly played a bit of a jobber role, it's rather impressive how he's made quite the impression on the fanbase, and I do believe that is largely due to his mystique. The open areas of mystery, along with his characterization and his somewhat carefree nature, does add to that somewhat cool factor the character does have. He's bold, loyal, and sharp-tongued, which makes for a very interesting character who has some of my favorite interactions in Mortal Kombat 11. So I believe from fan demand alone that Erron Black isn't just one of the best characters introduced in the rebooted trilogy, but one of the best character designs that the team has produced in recent memory. You can't tell me that shooting bullets off flipped coins aren't cool. Probably my favorite addition to Erron Black's character is how he has historically killed characters off screen. Back during MKX, it's implied in an interaction between himself and Kano that Erron grew tired of Cobra and gunned him down off screen. We see a bit of a similar thing in 11, where this man tosses out the head of sooooooo, a character that historically has been shat on by both the fanbase as well as its development team. Now, with that said, this has been it for Who the Hell is Erron Black. I hope you have enjoyed this one and learnt more by doing so. Of course, I did do a history of video on this character a very long time ago, but since the release of Mortal Kombat 11, we have learned quite a substantial bit of information about the character in both terms of story and origin. So, fingers crossed for a possible return in Mortal Kombat 12, as it is indeed possible with how his immortality does work. But until then, that has been it for this video. Now, before this video does wrap up, if possible guys, let's try getting it to about 500 likes, and please do click that bell well, as it will keep you up to date with all of my content coming out. I do apologize for being gone for the last 2 weeks. I have in fact taken some time off for myself to kind of recharge after working what feels like non-stop throughout the entire COVID situation. So I feel a little bit more refreshed now, and there's plenty more content on the horizon coming your way, including some new stuff and an update video that will be talking about the future of the channel going forward as of next week. But until then, that has been it for me. So now, as always guys, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I will see you all next time.